Srimad Bhagwad Gita. Importance of Yoga. The Bhagwad Gita is a part of the epic Mahabharata, which is a story of princely clans running over many generations. So, one side, one group of allies by the name of Pandavas are ranged against their cousin brothers by the name of Kauravas. The setting is a battlefield. Krishna is the charioteer of the lead warrior amongst the Pandavas. His name is Arjuna. We must go deeply into the setting first of all. There is a conflict in which brothers, relatives, acquaintances have all been set up against each other. Arjuna's great grandfather is on the opposite side. Many of Arjuna's friends are on the opposite side. Hundreds of his cousins, brothers are on the opposite side. The teacher who taught him all his martial skills is on the opposite side. The teacher's son too is on the opposite side. A lot of attachment, a lot of past, a lot of relationships. And on his own side are his brother. A lot of hurt carry over from the past, insult that he has been being meted out to his wife, his woes, his brother's woes, the feeling that he has been treated unfairly, the temptation to be a king again, the urge to get back what appears justifiably his. This is where Arjuna is standing. All attempts toward pacification have failed, and now it is certain that there would be a war, and it is a great war. It is the war of Mahabharata. Not a single state across the northern plains is insulated or secular at this point. Everybody has been forced to take sides. All kings, all princes are either on this side or on that side. There is nobody who can play indifferent. Such is the magnitude of the formation of the war, of the strife. And Arjuna is the most renowned, most responsible, most fearsome archer. The Pandavas are lucky to have him on their side, and just when the battle is to commence, Arjuna looks at the formation on the other side, and what does he see? He sees familiar faces, he sees his childhood, and he sees his familial bonds. He asks Krishna, kindly take my chariot to a more central point. Kindly take it to a place where I can see who I am fighting against. Let me first of all know, what is this battle all about? Krishna obliges him, and Arjuna looks at the faces of people he is about to fight, and his body starts shivering. He loses all interest in fighting. He says, what is the worth of a kingdom attained by killing one's own kins? I would rather die in anonymity and penury than be a king on the blood of my own. This is the prelude to the Bhagavad Gita. Once Arjuna has expressed the intention to not to fight, Krishna starts talking to him. The dialogue between Krishna and Arjuna that thus commences has been captured as the Bhagavad Gita, the song celestial. Myth has it that the entire conversation was seen by a third person called Sanjay, using his divine sight, and he chronicled the whole thing, but that is immaterial. What is material is there is someone in the middle of a conflict. There is someone whose mind is divided, and there is someone who is advising him. There is someone who is telling him what his dharma is, what the right action is in such a situation. The 18 chapters of Bhagavad Gita are all named as different yogas. These are the 18 chapters of dialogue between Krishna and Arjuna. Only if we understand the setting of the Bhagwad Gita would we also then know the meaning of yoga. Why is yoga needed in the first place? Krishna delivers 18 chapters, one after the other, to Arjuna, starting from Vishad Yoga to Sankhya Yoga to Karma Yoga to Karma Sannyasa, Jnana Yoga. What is the need for yoga? The need of yoga is only when somebody is in the state of an Arjuna. What is the state of an Arjuna? An Arjuna is anybody who doesn't know what is right for him, who doesn't know how to act in a particular situation, who is caught in decision making. Arjun is anybody who is stuck between attachment and action, past and prejudice, friendship and foes. Arjun is anybody who is torn between the various forces that can afflict any human being's mind. Any man or woman who ever experiences confusion is Arjun. Any mind that ever finds itself stuck, paralyzed, unable to move forward or backward, and also restless in its current position is Arjun. Anybody who has a Krishna in front of him but is yet caught in conflict is Arjun. If you are Arjun, then the word yoga is meaningful to you. Yoga is needed only when a man experiences contradictory forces, only when a mind feels that it is divided between various segments of influence and the segments are contradicting and competing with each other. When the mind is in such a situation, then that which brings peace and resolution to the mind is called yoga. Yoga, hence, is the only thing relevant to anybody who is mired in strife, tension, indecision, attachment, grief, memories. If this is what riddles the mind, then what one needs is yoga, and if one's position is not the same as that of Arjuna, then yoga is irrelevant. Arjun is a state of mind, and that situation is the state of mind is yours. You have to see, first of all, that you are Arjun, only then Krishna would speak to you. Krishna speaks only to Arjuna. If you are not an Arjun, what business do we have eavesdropping on the dialogue of two strangers? Krishna is talking and Arjuna. What are we doing here, there? Krishna is rendering some advice to Arjuna. Of what use that advice to us? That advice is of use only to one person, and he is Arjun. Now, unless you are Arjun, why do you want to listen to his advice? So, first of all, one sees that the setting of Mahabharata is highly symbolic. The battleground is not really a physical battleground. It is a literal symbol, an indicative thing. It indicates the world itself. One has to quickly come to terms with the symbolism, and it's a battleground in which one is not really facing strangers. Our world is a battleground in which we are positioned against those with whom we have relationships. If there is somebody as a stranger, it is quite unlikely that you would have a serious feud with him. Our most problematic engagements are with those with whom we have a past, a relationship, a history. Strangers hardly ever come to grieve us, to afflict us. It is those that we have shared our life with. It is those with whom we have had something to do. The battleground is our own life. Arjuna's predicament is our own confusion, and hence anybody and everybody who is standing confused, not really knowing who he is and what he ought to do, which way to move, how to decide, where to put in energy, and from where to withdraw. That is Arjuna. So, through all the literal signs, we are being shown the situation of our own life, and in the character of Arjuna, our own face. Yes, and then comes something that Krishna calls as yoga. If yoga is the antidote to such situations, you tell uh, what is the basic definition of yoga then? There is Arjuna who is in a particular situation, and Krishna is offering him yoga as freedom from that situation. So, what is yoga then? Do we relate to this situation? Now, in that situation, Arjuna is suffering. Chapter 1 of the Gita contains description of Arjuna's suffering. His hands has lost the power to even lift his bow. Instead of standing up like a warrior, he is crouching. He has put his hands on his face as if he is hiding his face. That is his situation. Now, as a treatment of this situation, Krishna offers him chapters on yoga. So, what then yoga is? Yoga is not being offered as a treatment to some physical disorder. Arjuna is a stout warrior, physically strong. He is handsome, sturdy, and the best archer. No one can match him. There is nothing wrong with his physicality. So, yoga is not being offered as a treatment to some physical ailment. At no point while stating his predicament does Arjuna says that he is in a spiritual quandary. Arjuna doesn't say that he is seeking enlightenment. Arjuna doesn't say that his self inquiry is struck. He doesn't say that he wants God. He doesn't say that he wants to understand the origin of the universe. So is Arjuna facing problems that we can classically call as spiritual. That is why Gita is such a practical document, and that is why it has held its own through centuries and centuries and centuries, because the Gita doesn't talk of the otherworldly nonsense. The Gita is a thing of this world. The Gita is addressed to someone who is facing very manifest, practical and material problems. The Gita doesn't seek to cure imaginary disease. The Gita is not about rising up to the heaven. The Gita is about living in this world. The protagonist of the Gita is in a very common situation. It is a situation that every man and woman on this earth can relate to it. In fact, if someone says that he cannot identify with the situation of Arjuna, then he doesn't know his own situation. There is nobody who is not an Arjun. Hence, there is nobody who doesn't know, who doesn't need a Krishna. So, Arjuna is not asking for moksha. He is not asking how to rise in nirvana. Tell me the path of unconditional love, he is asking. Here are my brothers. Do I fire or not? Fight or flight? Engage or escape? That hardly seems a spiritual question. And that's a funny thing, because whenever the situation is real, then the answer to that situation to be spiritual. But whenever the situation is possibly, artificially, dramatically created as spiritual, the answer is always unreal. If you come up with a real life situation, that chances that you will be able to enter spirituality are very high, because spirituality is the only real thing that is possible. Reality itself is spirituality. So only when you honestly come up with whatever is happening in your life would the doors of spirituality open to you. But if you come up with fancy make beliefs, questions that really don't have much to do with actual living, then all you will get is fairy tale answers, and fairy tales answers can please you but not help you. You can be very easily told that you are the Atma, and you can memorize that. But that really doesn't help you navigate through life. You can be easily told that you are just nothingness, and sitting as a body, you take it to your heart that you are nothing and nobody. That gives you another nice concept to identify with, but doesn't really help you. What Krishna is telling Arjuna is practical help. The practical help is called yoga, practical help for practical issues in life, direct, honest, to the point. What is happening? Let us talk about that. We are not talking spiritual fancies. We are not talking physical exercise. Unfortunately, that which we call as the realm of spirituality today has become identified with both or either of these and has lost touch with reality. In the name of spirituality, there is a lot of physical stretching, and in the name of spirituality, there is a lot of jargon, stuff that sounds high flying, high flowing, but really doesn't touch you, really doesn't look at the way you live. Gita is real. Gita is real because Arjuna's situation is not a made up situation. It is a real situation. Unless you come up with that, what your real situation is, with what your real problem is, with what really vexes you, no spirituality is going to open for you. Because spirituality is not about axioms or mantras or quotes. Spirituality is about direct knowing what is happening and who you are in the happening situation. So, yoga is the coming together of the various divided fragments of the mind. The mind is a wonderful thing. When the mind is divided, not only are the various divisions separate from each other, they are also then distant from their common center. So then the various parts of the mind, the various thoughts, the various influences, the various moods and opinions, they fight not only with each other but also with reality. The center of the mind is the truth, which I will also call as reality. Course, you can take the mind as a sphere having a center. When the sphere is broken, what happens to the various parts? They fall apart. They lose their natural coherence.